Hello everyone. It's been a while since I last posted. Well, there has been a lot of things going on my side. Like I got really busy with the UiPath Associate Certification Guide, the book that got published, and a few other things on the work side and few personal stuff. So really sorry for not posting any videos for the last 2 months, but now all those things are away and now we are back again. So this is my next video. So today we are going to talk about UiPath Document Understanding, and we are going to specially focus on the signature extraction. So when it comes to signatures, it's like one important part in every document where we need to sometimes check whether the signature exists in the document. And if so, we might also need to extract the signature and compare with another database to ensure that signature is correct or wrong. So this is one important thing, and especially we can consider a use case like checks in banks. We always need to cross-check the signature and verify whether the signature is there in the check, and if it is there, whether it's the correct signature or not. So today we are going to talk about this special scenario. So let's see what our use case is today. So we have few things to look at. So this is going to be our flow for this session. So we'll be reading few checks from a folder and we'll be extracting the data, and we'll also extract the signature as an image and try to compare it with another database we already have in UiPath Data Service. So we'll be using combination of things here. We'll be using document understanding to extract the data, and then UiPath Data Service, which acts as our database where we have all the signatures. So we'll be downloading the signature from the data service and trying to compare it using signature comparison model we have in AI Center. So we'll be using all three uh, things today. So let's get started. So where can we find signatures? So I'll quickly show you a place. So if you go to this site, here you can actually find a whole lot of samples, checks that you can download. This is a public data set that's available on this site. So you can just create a login and download. So it will have a whole lot of information which you can use. So I actually selected few samples for our scenario here. Let me quickly go into the input files. So these are some checks that I got from that downloaded data set. So we'll be extracting few fields from this check, like the name, the date, amount, account number, check number, and also we'll try to extract this reference code and then the signature. So these are the fields we will be trying to extract, but we'll be mainly focusing on this signature part. So we'll try to build this use case and see how it works. So for this to work, I need to prepare a few things first. So I initially said that we need to use AI Center for the signature comparison model. So we need to prepare the uh, ML skill for that. So what we need to do is we need to go to Automation Cloud, go to AI Center, and if you don't have any projects created here, you can create one. I already have a few created for me. In here, under ML packages, if you go to out of the box packages, under UiPath image analysis, so there's another separate image analysis here, but we are focusing on the UiPath one. Here you can see a model for signature comparison. So you can create this package, and remember that this is not retrainable because it's already trained, but you can use this to compare different signatures. So just create this model by hitting on the submit button and providing it a name, and then hitting on submit again. I have already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. So in my ML packages, I have the signature comparison model, and once it is created, you don't need to do any training under pipelines. So just go to ML skills, and using that package we created, you can click on create new, provide a name, choose the package, signature comparison. You can select the version and then hit on create. It will take a while to create this skill, but at the end it will show you the status as available. And once that is done, you are ready with your ML skill for the comparison. So one part is done. Now what we need to do is we need to prepare our solution, the UiPath environment, to start building this workflow. So let's get to the studio. So I have already created one project for us, but here I have few dependencies. Just like for any UiPath Document Understanding project, we need to use UiPath Document Understanding ML activities. I'm using the latest version as of today. And intelligent OCR activities, UiPath OCR activities to use the OCR engines. And yeah, that's it for now. So install all these packages by, you can search from here, and once that is installed, we are ready to start our workflow. So just to start, we need few things to set up here. So I have created some config variables over here. I'm not using any config, um, the dictionary thing for the time being, because I'm just trying to explain how to do this, just to keep it simple. So I already have few file paths defined. The first one is where my input files are going to be, and then the second one is where the extracted data is going to be saved, the Excel file basically. And then I will be also extracting the image or the signature image from the check. So I need to have a place to save it. So this is where I'm going to save that. And then finally, when we try to compare it with the data set we have in the data service, then we also need to download a file from there. So I'll show you the data service part after this, once we get to that point. But for the time being, we need to have a folder to download it. So that's why I already have 4 paths defined, and those 4 are actually here. So this is my input folder. We'll be having 5 files. This is where my extracted data is going to be saved. For now, I just have an Excel file over here. It is empty. And then I have the extractor signature folder. It's empty, and the original signatures. So these are the 4 folders. So let's get to the data service part a little later. First, we'll try to read the check and extract the signatures out of it. So let's get to the studio. And yeah, to start with, we need to define the taxonomy. So we need to go to taxonomy manager. So in the taxonomy manager, we need to configure this and start creating the groups and the different document types. So let's start with the group. So let's say financial. And in here, we need to have a category. So we can just create, let's say, incoming. And in this, the document type is a check. Let's now define the fields that we are going to extract. So if we go to the input files, we need the name, date, amount, account number, and this view information. So let's quickly try to create those. Yeah. So the first one is a date, the name. So the field, let's say pay name, type is text, same, and then comes the date, check date. Here I will define it as date, but I'll be doing few additional things here. I will provide the format. So in a check, the date goes like date, month, and year. So I can give the format as DD, MM, and 4Ys. M should be capital to define the month. And then the total amount. Um, let's say amount, and I'll just set it as text for the time being. The account number, again text, and then the check number and the reference number. Check number, reference, let's say. And lastly, we need to have the signature. So for the signature, there we don't have a type called signature under field types. So for that, we'll be using a Boolean type just to specify whether we have a signature or not. So this is the first step in defining the signature. Okay, so now we have all the fields we need to extract. So the taxonomy part is done. And now here we are in the studio again. So let's start our first step. We need to use the taxonomy. So we need to look for the load taxonomy activity and provide the output as. You need to create a variable. You can do it by Control K, pressing it together. So we have the document taxonomy. Now what we need to do is we need to find a way to loop through the documents. So since we are just doing a demo, I will just use for each activity here, for each file in folder. But when you're actually building a real workflow for a project, don't use this one. Either use parallel for each if you are using the action center for validation, or create a process that runs once per document and put it into the UiPath orchestrator and use queues to hold your files. Like each queue item can be a separate file and your process can be triggered for each file. It's one of the best practices to do. So for the time being, I'll just use this activity for each file in folder. And we need to define the input folder, which we have here already. So I'll just say config input file path. And the first step is once we're inside the folder, Once we are inside the loop, we need to do a digitize activity. Digitize document. So here we are going to use this current file object and full name. So this will give you the full file path. And we need to create the output variables, document text, document object model, and by default we'll be having the UiPath document OCR in the digitized document activity, but we need to configure it. We need to provide the API key and the endpoint. So the endpoints, you can actually find it here under docs.uipath.com. You can easily find the public endpoints using this URL. And this is the UiPath document OCR endpoint. And the API key, you can find it under admin. And if you go to licenses, robots and services, you can find the API key over here. So you just need to copy it and use it in your workflow. So for the time being, I have both created in my two variables, doc API key and the doc OCR URL. So I'll be using those two variables here. Doc OCR URL. So we have completed the digitized document. Now, we are not doing any classification here because we are only trying to process checks. So we can directly move into the data extraction part. So inside this do, I will place a data extraction scope right below the digitizing. And we need to define these things again, like current file, full name. We already have the variables for document text, document object model, and also the taxonomy. So we need to define the output for the extraction results. So we will create a new variable by pressing Ctrl K. Let's say auto extraction results. And we need to define the document type here. Since we are not using the classification, we can find the document type ID from the taxonomy manager. So if we go here, you select this check. This is your document type. You can copy that and paste it here within double quotes. So for this one, we'll be using the form extractor because the check layout is the same. And every time the signature is in a selected area, it won't change. So for this purpose, we'll be using the form extractor. But if in addition to checks, if you are using or trying to process different types of documents where you don't know where the signature will be, in that case, you might need extra help to figure out whether the document has a signature or not. So you might need to use some object detection models to and train it to identify signatures and um, see whether you can find the signature in those documents or not. So for the time being, just to keep it simple, let's only focus on the form extractor, but we can definitely look at the object detection and training it for identifying signatures in a different video. So for now, let's use form extractor. So if you remember, earlier we used to use intelligent form extractor for handwritten data, But now the form extractor has the same capability to detect the handwritten information. So we can use the form extractor instead. An intelligent form extractor will be eventually removed. So it is important to use form extractor. And here we need to provide the API key. So since I have it in my variable, I'll just copy it from there. Oh, I can directly give it as a variable. No. Yeah. It's needed for me when we are creating the template. So I will just copy it anyway. Okay, so now let's go into manage templates to create a template for our checks. And here we can create the template. We need to select the type. We only have checks. We can say um, bank check. And we need to select a document. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me try to get this folder path. And let's select one check. And we are using the OCR engine. UiPath Document OCR. Oh, I copied this. Okay. I'll get the API key from here and click on configure. Let's give it like, okay. So here we are in the screen where we need to define our templates. So this is our sample document. So first place, we need to provide some matching info so that it knows we are looking at the correct page. So here we need to define at least 5 words that does not change across all these documents. So since we are having checks of just one type of bank here, you can use that as a name as well. So we need to define like unique keywords. So let's try to capture some text like this. Okay, I think that is enough. And plus. Okay. And now we need to get the payer name. So we need to highlight this entire region. So let's try to highlight it. Okay, let's try again. Okay. And we need to select custom area and click on plus. We need to do the same for the check date. Custom area, check date, the amount, custom area, and then the account number. So I think I saw in a couple of images, it's not always in the box. It's a little bit above as well. So let's try to cover that area as well when defining the region. So we'll define it like this. So we should be able to capture if it is outside as well. Custom area, account number, and the check number. So let's see whether we can extract this text because it's like a different, it has a different look. So let's see if it works. So let me try to highlight that area, custom area, check number, and this reference as well. And then the signature. So signature is always in this area. So we can Just try to highlight this area. We can make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, custom area. Okay, so we have it defined for this template. So let's submit it. And here we have option to select whether we have signature fields or not. So we do have one, which is the signature. So these are the fields we defined in the taxonomy. So we'll select signature, and yeah, so we have done the template. So close. And let's go to configure extractors. And here we have all the fields. So let's enable all the fields for form extractor and click on save. So what this means is the form extractor will be used to extract values for all these fields. And now we have the data extraction part. So let's put a validation station and let's see. Let's quickly run it and see whether we can actually see the values. So let's configure this as well. Doc text, document object model, document taxonomy, auto extraction results, and we'll change it to validated extraction results. Okay, so since we have this, let's run it and see all documents to see whether we have the data as we expect. So we should get the first one now. Yep. Okay, so we have the type and we have the pair name perfectly extracted. Check date. So you can see it was able to identify the day, month, and year. The amount is captured, account number is captured, check number is also captured, which is good. Check reference. It was able to identify all this, like it has a different font altogether, but it was able to identify that, which is good. And see this, it says you have a signature. So it was able to identify it. So this view is new. It has some couple of new features. So let me cover that one as well along with this. So here we can see the OCR confidence and the extraction confidence. So if you go to OCR, you can see this one has a low OCR confidence because could be because it's handwritten stuff. But when it comes to extraction, it has a different confidence. And also we have this filtering mechanism. If you click here, so based on the confidence levels, you can see only fields that fall into that region. Like if you select 0 to 54% confidence, so these are the fields that are inside that range. So this way, we get an easy way of filtering the fields and just focusing on low confidence fields instead of looking into all the fields. And it has a nice way of grouping those as well. Okay, so we have this document ready. So let's see the other document. Yep, so this also works fine and we were able to extract the signature. So it seems like we are on the right track. So let's stop it and try to extract the signature. So let's have the present validation station, and below that, let's also try to save this data in an Excel. So let me add a sequence here to organize this a little bit. So data. So for this one, we need to use export extraction results, validated extraction results, and we have a data set. For now, I don't need the OCR confidences. And let's try to use a for each, because I need to loop through this data set. So this is a data set that has data tables. So we need to say data set dot tables, current table, let's say, and let's try to use the append range for now, because I already have an Excel file there. And my path is extracted data path. Plus extracted. Okay, all right. So let me change this thing a bit. Since I already have this, let me get the properties and folder path here. Okay. Extraction data path. So let me update this one. So it will be in a single Excel file, everything we extract. Hit one and current table. So for this for each, we need to change the type argument to data table. And in addition to saving this, I also need to take the name of this person, because we need to compare that with the signatures. So let's try to get that name. So how to get it is actually by looping through this one. So in the taxonomy, name is the first field, so we can get it from there. So under current table, we go to rows, first row, first column to string. So this will give me the name. Okay, so that part is done. So this will generate us the Excel sheet. And I need to change the scope of this pair name to the outermost. Okay. And now let's try to create our signature. So this is the most important part. So let me get another sequence here. Extract signature. So up to now, it is quite common across all DU paths, DU projects. So this is the most specific part for the signature extraction. So for this one, we need to understand a bit about the structure of this validated extraction result variable. So I kind of have a sample here, which I took earlier. So this is just to get an idea how this thing looks like. So this extraction result has a lot of information, but we need to only look at few things. So under extraction result, it is the type. You can see information like the document category, the group, the things we created while defining the taxonomy. So this is the document type. So this is a bit different than what we defined, but this is just a sample. So in the extraction result, we need to look at the results document. Inside that, we need to look at fields. So inside fields, we have results data points. So this can repeat for each field. So for each field, we have result data point that has everything about the field ID, the field name basically, and whether the value was extracted or not as a boolean is missing. And if the value was extracted, we can see the value inside the values section. If we go inside values, we have the result value. And for that, we see the OCR confidence. And if we scroll down under value, we see the extracted value. So this is the name that we saw. And for that same name, it is actually defined inside a small box. Every text that got extracted, it is inside a box. So that box defines the region. So inside here, you can see for this name, it had three boxes like separated by spaces. So that's why under boxes, you see three things. So this has the coordinates of the box: top, left, width, and height. Same way, you can check for another fields in the results data point. You have the same information and the box as well. So these are the things we need to remember when trying to do this, because we need to navigate through this to locate our fields. So we'll be locating the field using the field ID, and we'll be using these boxes to identify the area and try to crop and get the image, the signature. So we'll be needing to look for this signature field. So that's the first step now. So first we need to find this field. So let's try it. So inside the extract signature, so let's use a assign. In here, we need to use that validated extraction results. And if you go to taxonomy manager, if you look at the field signature, here is the field ID. So we can just copy it and keep it with us. So in the assign, let's use the validated extraction results. So I'm trying to go through that path now. And then next we need to go to results document. Results document. Then as I mentioned before, fields. And let's try to find the fields using this expression where function f, you can have any name here, field ID is what we need, because that's where we see this thing. Field ID is equal to the thing we copied, and let's only get the first one. So we can have multiple things. So let's try to get only the first. and then assign it to a variable called signature field. So this signature field should have a specific type. It should be um, result data point because it's inside this. So let's try to find that here. So it should not be string. We need to go to browse for types and you look for UiPath document processing under contracts. Um, Not under contracts, it should be under results and results data point. So this is what we need. So we have the signature field now. So once we have the field, we need to use that field to get that region. So now is trying to get the region. So let's use another assign. So let's call it the box. Let's say signature box. Let's change the type later. And this time we are using this signature field. And inside this, now we need to look for the values. So again, coming back to this structure, now we are here. We need to look for these values because inside that only we can find these boxes. So inside values, so these are arrays. So we need to use the 0th one always. Then we have something called reference. Inside that we have something called tokens. Again 0. And then we have boxes and 0 again. So what we did here was we found this value section, then we got into this reference section, tokens, and inside that boxes. So we were basically traveling through this structure. And for this one, we need to have a box type, not string. So signature box has to change. Again, UiPath document contracts box. So that gives you the region. Now we have the region. Now we have the signature field. Now using this region, we can try to crop the image, the entire document because it's an image, and get only that part out of it. So to do this, we need to use some special activity. So let's try to add it to the solution. We need to look for an activity called image activities dot activities. So we'll be using this one. It's actually done by UiPath itself. So there are two. Use only the one that says cropping images. Install and save. So this pack has a couple of activities that we can use to extract the signature out of this document we are processing and do some improvements to the image and then save it. Okay, so the first one is, first we need to load our document as an image. So we have the document here as a object model and a text, but not as an image. So that's the first step because we need to crop using that image. So we need to use the activity called load image. And here we are giving the document path, and output is check image. Now is the cropping part. So for this one, we first need to use a invoke code activity to crop it basically. Um, yeah, so we'll use it here. So we still did not use the image activities. We are still trying to get there. So in this invoke code, we are going to write a single line that allows us to crop the image using this box. But to do that, we need few arguments to send in. We basically need the document image, the check image, and we need to send the region, and we also need to send a scale that defines the cropping, and as the output we are getting the cropped image. So let's try to pass those. So we are going to create an argument called check image. This is the actual document as an image. The type has to be image. So we are trying to look for UiPath.co image. So this is the image type. And we already have this variable check image. Then again another input argument is the box, signature box. This is of type signature box. We need to look for it again. So UiPath document processing contracts box, and then we need to pass a scale. This is of type double, system double. We don't have a variable for this, so let's create one, scale. And finally we are getting the cropped image, extracted signature as the output of type image. And let's create a variable for that, extracted image. We have the arguments ready, 3 inputs and 1 output. And let's try to edit the code. So here we need to assign the output argument extract a signature equals the check image. The input variables might not show here, but it will work. Make sure you use the same name. Check image is my input argument. And simple crop, new rectangle, because those are rectangles. And inside that, we can define our regions as a cint signature box dot left. So this is how we define. Can copy this one, left, comma, copy it. This can be top, again, comma and paste. This is width, comma and space, and height. That's it. And another bracket to close it. Okay, so we have our code and let's click on OK. So this will basically give us the cropped image. And now what we need to do is we are going to use the activity here that we uh, included from one of those new things. So we are going to use, let me try to find it, image contrast. Why I'm using this is because, so if you actually look at the signatures, you have a colorful background. So for us to do a proper comparison, we need to make sure we see only the signature, because usually that's how the signatures are captured, to eliminate all the noise and just focus on the part which we need to use. So what happens with this contrast is we can change the contrast and get only the required part of that cropped image. So since we have the extracted image, I'm using the extracted image here. I'll set this to 100 and save it, save the image in my extracted signature path here with the name of the person. So that's why I extract the name from here. So I'll say config extract a signature path plus pair name plus dot jpg. So this is how we need to save. Okay, so we have that part done. So let's try to run it for one document and let's see if this works. So let's wait for the validation station. We have everything extracted here, so I'm not going to do any changes. Let's click on submit. So we should see this Excel file getting updated. Okay, so we are here for the next document. Let's quickly have a look. Yeah, so the Excel file got updated with this info. And let's go back here for extractor signatures, and here we have the signature. So you can see it was able to crop and remove all the background noise, and we just have the signature. So this is the best format to extract and save a signature from a document so that we can easily compare it and we don't have anything else in the background. So let's do another quick run for this document as well, and let's have a look. You can see how clear it is. Okay, so let's stop this again. So let me now quickly create another simple workflow to do a comparison. And let me also show you where my um, data service is. So let me go to data service, and I have a entity already here called signature data. In here I have two fields, customer name and customer signature. This is of type file. So the name is the same name we see here in these documents because we are extracting the name. So using that name, we have a database and a signature file for each of them, which we need to download and compare. So this is how it is going to be. So let's try to download it and try to compare these two signatures that we have using our model. Um, so let's quickly try to create a separate workflow for this in the same solution. Signature. Yeah. So for this one, we need few things as the input argument. We need the file that got created after extraction. Signature file path. And next we need where we are going to save the file that we are going to download. Original signature download path. Okay, so here let's now connect this studio to the service data service. So how to do that is you need to go to manage entities. Just select what we need, signature data. We need to use system user and click on save. I don't want anything else, so that's why I'm using only that one. So it will update our dependencies according to that. Um, so we have this thing here, but we need to install the activity data service activities. So let's click on this install package, or you can look for it here under manage packages, data service, this one, install and save. Okay, so we need one more thing. So we have the extractor signature file path, the original path, where the files are going to be downloaded, and we also need the name of the person, which we have on the other workflow, your name. Okay, so now we need to browse this entity, signature data. So let me just drag it over here. And this will give me a list of activities, query entity records for signature data. So let's try to build the query. I need the customer name that should be equal to in pair name, and that's the record I'm looking for. And the output records, this will be a collection for us. um, let's say pair information. So you can see this is actually a list, but ideally in our data service we have only one record, so we don't need to really loop through it. We can just get the value. So all I need is to download that file. So I'll use a download file from this activity. So I need the record ID, which I can get from this variable, pair information dot, not dot, zero index because it's a list, and ID. The field, yeah, so I need to change this to signature data. Field is customer signature. and the file path. So this is where I'm going to store it. This is just the path. Let's add in their name, JPG. Here it will get downloaded and saved. And now let's try to compare the two files. So for the comparison, we need to use the machine learning model. And for that, we need another dependency here for ML skills. So let's search ML skill. UiPath ML services install. Okay, so let's use the ML skill activity now to try and compare this. So I'm connecting as a robot for now. I'm not using any endpoints. So let's search signature comparison. And for the input, we need to give both file paths separated by a comma. So for that, we'll just create a assign signature paths, and so I already have the extractor signature file path. And I need to use this one because this is where the other one is going to be saved. This plus separated by a comma and the other path. Okay, so we'll be using signature paths now. And we'll be getting the JSON response. So I'll be not going through the JSON response. I'll only show you the output. But if you are going to actually read the response, you need web API activities to convert it into a JSON structure and read it. You can learn more about this part from one of the videos that Nisarg did on this specific skill. So since he has already done that, I'm not going to repeat. So I'll just show you how the output is going to look like. But you can find that video in the description below as a link for his channel. Okay, so we have this one now. So let's try to configure the input arguments on the other side. So after this, I'm going to add another sequence. Measure validation. And here I'm going to invoke that workflow. Signature comparison. Okay, so I have the extractor signature path. Let me see. Where did I save it? It is saved here. So I'll just use the same name. And for this original signature download path, I'll pass the folder path. and the payer name like this. Yeah, that's all we need. So let's run it again for one more time. Let me remove all this stuff. And this time let's try to run it for all the documents so we can see it. So our comparison result should show in the output panel. So this is the document, submit. So we know now that our image is getting extracted. This is the image. Let's see the output. And you can see same author, similarity is 1.0 is 100%. Let's try the next one. Same, because it's actually having a very close similarity. You can try this by trying to compare between different signatures and see how it looks like. Yeah, so this one there's a small difference like 0.97, which is 97% accuracy. <clears throat> 100%. So our main goal is to say this and try to compare it with the data we see in a data service. So the execution ended. Let's quickly have a look at this. This is our comparison result, and here are our signatures, everything we extracted from those documents. So using this, now you know how to extract a specific region and crop it from an image. So in addition, if you might wonder, what if my document is a PDF file? So here my input files are images. So if it's a PDF file, you can easily do one thing. You can use the PDF activities, and in the PDF activities, there's activity to convert a page of a PDF file into an image file. So you can use that to convert your document into a JPG file or image file and use it with this same code. So that's all you need to do if your file is a PDF. So with that, that covers our main topic. It was a long session, but I guess this was helpful for you to understand, and I wanted to do that in one session because then it will be easy to follow. So with this, I hope you got the idea to how to do the signature extraction, and I'll be adding this code in the description as a link which you can go and download. So reach out to me if you have any questions around this, and I hope this will be helpful. So I'll be back with another couple of videos around topics like this. So until then, take care and see you soon.